What's up, gamers? What's up, YouTube? My name is Marl, and this is my guide for Phosani Nightmare and Old School Runescape. This boss has a pretty sweaty reputation as being one of the most difficult bosses in the endgame. However, I want to show that with a simple gear set that maximizes your supplies and the smart use of plugins, it's not nearly as bad as the tryhards make it out to be. Because no, you do not need full Inquisitors with the scythe or a ton of mage gear, or really any mage gear. But before I begin, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more Old School RuneScape content in the future. Alright, let's get started with gear. So for a starting loadout, this is what I think you should bring. Zombie Axe is incredibly underrated for Nightmare. That's because it is one of the very few crush weapons that can reach a max hit of 55, which is the health of the parasites. If parasites live for more than a few ticks, they're going to start healing the boss. So any other weapon that maybe has like 5 or 10% more DPS, like the bludgeon, that advantage is lost if one heal gets off on the boss. So that's why I think Zombie Axe is the way to go. I wouldn't really replace it until you get an Inquisitor's Mace, which you can also get a max hit of 55 with, but it pretty much requires you to have full max melee setup. So Zombie Axe is affordable, it has the same stats as an Osmunten's Fang, so it's definitely no slouch, and against crush weak mobs, this is my new favorite one-handed weapon. Then for your inventory, bring your best powered magic staff. Trident of the Sea works. This is for killing the totems, which have 0 accuracy checks, so no other magic gear is necessary, especially as a beginner. Another weapon you will need though is the Sunlight Hunter crossbow for taking out the Sleepwalker phase, where Sleepwalkers spawn in the corners of the room and you need to be able to quickly hit at least half of them from a distance before they reach the boss. So the Sunlight Hunter crossbow, having an attack speed of 3 with a range of 8, makes this the most viable option that basically costs nothing to run. Other than that, just bring supplies. Sandfuse serums to deal with the parasite, Divine Super Combat to keep your max hit up, and just the best food you can afford. The Moonlight Antelope meat, quite good. Manta rays, this is where to spend your money on food because the trip is really long to get to this boss. So until you get that teleport, absolutely spend on the best food. And same thing with bringing a Blood Fury instead of the Rancor when you're starting. Finishing off, I'll suggest some upgrades to this loadout. First, thralls, obviously, always a good DPS increase. They even get a damage bonus during the totem phase. I would probably wait until you have a few KC before bringing them though, because really it's all about learning the mechanics. Food is going to let you recover more times and just see more of the fight to get comfortable with it. Then there is the Eye of Yak. This has got to be the most cost-effective upgrade you can get. It replaces your Sunlight Hunter crossbow because it has 3 tick speed with 8 range as well. And it's basically the best magic weapon, maybe even better than the Shadow because of the fast attack speed. It doesn't waste time with overkills on the totems. So absolutely consider picking one up because they're relatively cheap right now, only 60 mil or so. And it's good at a lot of places, not just Phosani, so you'll get a lot of use out of it. To go with that, I also want to suggest the Saturated Heart. This is the #1 mage upgrade to get other than a weapon. It adds 8 max hits to the Eye of Yak when you're using Augury, so it's just huge DPS increase. And it doesn't require a gear swap, so very simple to use. Just use it at the same time you use your Divine Super Combat and you're good to go with it. Next, you could look at the Webweaver bow. This is an upgrade for the Sleepwalker phases because it has 9 range with the 3 attack speed. This allows you to cover 4 of the spawn locations instead of only 3, so pretty decent upgrade for getting more consistent on the Sleepwalkers to minimize that damage. And finally, here are the special weapons to consider. Voidwaker is quite nice sometimes. It doesn't always perform, but it has the potential to end the Enrage phase in 2 shots if you max hit with it. But it doesn't always do that, so I don't recommend it for beginners because the Enrage phase is really not that difficult. You really want your supplies just to focus on getting through the mechanics of the early phases. And then there's the Elder Maul. You can use the spec to lower the defense for a decent DPS increase. Just know that the cap on defense reduction is 30 points, so not the most, and the boss recovers its stats every minute, so you'll want to use the spec at the start of every phase to get the value out of it. The Elder Maul can also just be used as your main weapon though, because if you do the DPS calculation, it does compete with other crush weapons. My personal best, in fact, is 6 minutes 47 seconds, just using the Elder Maul as my only melee weapon. Now for the juicy part, I'll talk about plugins. There's quite a few, but it's totally worth it for really simplifying the fight, making it easy for yourself. So here's how to set up your ground markings, in my opinion. I had to do this manually, there isn't a tile pack for Nightmare, but what you want to do is split the area into 4 quadrants. That gives you a good indication of your range distance from each of the totems, as well as helps with dodging the charge attack. And then you're going to want to highlight all of the spawn locations of the Sleepwalkers. That way you can hover over one of them, and hopefully with good RNG you can instantly click on it, because killing every Sleepwalker really comes down to just having that RNG of hovering over their tile when they spawn. That way you can be tick perfect. Then with low detail and Skybox, you can remove the texture of the fighting area, which is immensely helpful for dodging the black circles, because literally having it just be a blank canvas gives you at least 1 or 2 ticks extra to see where the black circles are spawning, so it's massive. Next, for highlighting important things during the fight, you can use a combination of these plugins. Better NPC Highlight lets you highlight pretty much all the ads during the fight. It's especially nice, I think, for the totems, but you have to put in a lot of NPC IDs for them. You see that in the whole IDs I have below, and you can change the colors, so I have them green when they're inactive, blue when I need to attack them, and then red when I've killed them. That really helps a lot with knowing what state you're in. Then highlighting the parasites, husks, and sleepwalkers is nice too. Also your thrall, because you're going to want to use entity hider to hide your thrall, otherwise it can stand on top of black circles and totally block your view of that. And yes, my thrall killed me at least 2 or 3 times before I finally enabled entity hider and put an outline on it. Then custom menu swap you use to make sure that you always click on the ads first instead of the nightmare. So you can set that up how I have it here with the custom swaps. And then there's object markers if you want to highlight the mushrooms. This is a little bit more complicated to do, but you can also do it manually by shift right clicking them during the fight. But if you want to do all of them at once, I'll link a Reddit thread with instructions on how to do that. But you'll basically have to edit a properties file in your Runelite folder, and that will really help you with avoiding the mushrooms during that phase. Now for the true spice of this video, we're getting into SoundSwapper. I went absolutely nuts with this plugin for this fight because really a lot of the difficulty is around just completely overwhelming your senses with tons of sounds. You see here I have a blacklist of about, I don't know, is that like 30 sounds that I have blacklisted, just so that you're not distracted by a bunch of unneeded sound spam. And yeah, then there's the custom sound effects that I have actually good telegraph sounds swapped into for the boss's main attacks, the teleport, the curse special, grasping claws, and also for whatever reason I just have an issue with remembering to refresh my divine potion, so I put a sound swap for that too. And so now I'm going to demonstrate the potential this has by playing an example of me using my starter loadout and using all my sound swaps as well as the other plugin settings to give you an example of how powerful it can be. And I'm also going to link my sounds that I use in the description, so check that out if you want to use them too. So going into the gameplay, here's just the loadout that I'm bringing. It's more or less the same as what I had as the starter loadout, just I didn't have a Dragon Defender or a Berserker Ring, so I'm using slightly different things, but main thing is the strength value, 160. That's the threshold to get the max hit of 55 from your zombie axe. And then I don't have a Blood Fury, I'm using crappier food. I have 1 less space because I'm using 2 teleport items. because I have the sleepy tablet unlocked. But this is gonna show that like once you have the mechanics down, DPS is not a factor, and you can really overcome some major mistakes that I may or may not make in this with just having perfect prayers and not stepping in the black circles. So I'll press play now. So there you're hearing my custom sounds for the main attacks of the boss. Much more clearer and not prolonged like they normally are. And here's the special, the Husk special. Pretty much just want to kill these ASAP. The bulky one attacks with range, while the skinny one attacks with mage, so you can potentially pray against them, although really the boss attacks are way more lethal, so don't worry about praying against the Husk, to be honest. Now here's the mushroom special. You can see the highlights, and the sound for the grasping claws is a custom one I have. It's awesome for stepping under the boss. You can click the boss right when the sound ends, and it times perfectly with protecting you from taking damage. So this really was a game changer for me to basically never get hit by the black circles anymore. Now here's the teleport. Again, a custom sound for that, just to make it more noticeable. Whenever you teleport, you're going to want to zoom out just to make sure you're not in line of fire for that charge. Alright, now we're going into the totem phase after we remove the boss's shield. And just switch to the magic weapon and start DPSing them. And just focus on your prayers. There's really not much to look at other than listening to the prayers and clicking the matching one. There's another Husk special. No problem, just switch to your zombie axe and one-shot both of them. You might notice I'm not using augury, and that's just to show that really if your mechanics are good, your DPS does not matter at all. You can get through the fight to the end without taking damage if you just do the mechanics. Another mushroom special. Just so with the mushrooms, you always want to be at least one tile away from them, otherwise they make you start yawning for 10 seconds, so that disables your run, which is quite horrible for avoiding black circles. And it also drains your prayer a bit. But it is preferable to step in the mushrooms than it is to step in the black circles, because otherwise you're going to be taking like 60 damage. So there you saw with my ground markings, I was easily able to tell that I wasn't going to get hit by that charge. Alright, now since I've destroyed all the totems, we're going into the Sleepwalker phase. I got a bit confused though, so I've messed up with swapping my weapons, so I ended up only killing one of the Sleepwalkers, where normally if you're just locked in, you should never miss both of the first Sleepwalkers, so I take a 77 for missing that, so that's why I have the supplies, to afford mistakes like that, and just get me through more of the fight, to see more things. Okay, here's the flower special for the first time. This is really the easiest special. It just constricts you down to the quadrant with the flowers surrounding it, and then she's gonna spam the grasping claws, and you can use this tactic I'm using to step under her corner to always have a safe spot, although I messed it up once and took some damage, so you gotta learn that timing a little bit. Not good. Don't have to rush though. Again, DPS is not that important. Just survive, avoid the mechanics, and you can win. Alright, here's the curse special. I have that custom sound for alerting you when it starts. So protect from mage becomes protect from melee, protect from range becomes protect from mage. Protect from melee becomes protect from range. So this one's pretty hard to learn. It's definitely going to be where a lot of your supplies go into surviving the first few times you do it. And now I've got a parasite, so once you get the parasite, you want to drink your Sandfuse serum, have your piety on, and then you can just one-shot it with your zombie axe, which is huge because it didn't get a heal off. And now we're back into the totem phase. Here's a flower special, so just get in there and you no longer have to step under the boss. You can just keep DPSing totems while dodging the black circles. Here comes the curse, so our prayers are switched now. Melee protects from rain, or melee protects from magic. Magic protects from range. It's pretty confusing. You gotta be really locked in to do it, so don't feel bad. As it does have a learning curve. Alright, Parasite, Sandfuse Serum. You don't really want to go into the Sleepwalker phase with the Parasite in you, so I'm just waiting here. Got my zombie axe out to kill it. Alright, with it dead, now I can finish off this totem and go into the Sleepwalkers. Alright, so here I'm choosing a corner to look at, and I get terrible RNG. I chose the corner where there's no Sleepwalker. So, unfortunately, I'm not getting all three dead. And that's just the RNG part of Sleepwalkers, is you gotta pick a corner, and I picked the wrong corner, so I took a 55. Again, that's where having supplies is valuable, rather than DPS. So this is the final phase, phase 3. This is the hardest one because all of her attacks will disable your prayer if you're already praying against the correct thing. So yeah, you're gonna have to flick a prayer every single one of her attacks, no matter what. Then here's a mushroom phase. I'm in a pretty cramped spot, so I do end up making a mistake here and stepping into a mushroom, but that is preferable to stepping in the black circle, so that just, sometimes you get in bad spots with the mushrooms. So I just have to wait 10 seconds and then re-enable my run so that I can dodge things. And you definitely want your run enabled for the Sleepwalker phase if you want to kill them. Something to note was in this final phase, I got the Husk special. The Husk special is very deadly in the last phase, where if you have it activated going into the Sleepwalker phase, they prevent you from moving, so you won't be able to kill most of the Sleepwalkers with it enabled, so you do need to keep note of what specials are so that you don't accidentally have them enabled going into the Sleepwalkers. One tip I have is you pretty much always want to be camping your prayer during this fight, and you should always wait until right after attack before going into your inventory to do anything. That way you'll have enough time to respond to the next attack. It's really all about praying correctly. So don't panic and switch menus like that. Be very methodical about pray, eat again, pray, take a drink, etc. Another thing about the Husk special is that you don't have to worry about dodging the grasping claws during it. However, you really cannot be under the boss, otherwise you'll take a 60, so you can only be at her corner, but if you're deeper beneath her, then that's dangerous. Comes the curse again. protect range to protect from melee. Protect magic to protect from the range. Again, she disabled it, so I had to re-enable it 3 times in a row. Melee protects from magic. Alright, mushroom special, this is nice. If we can finish it. Push her into the Sleepwalker phase with this last totem. I do make a major mistake here, and I'm surprised I don't die from it, but yeah, there's a timing here with knowing when the next special is going to activate, and generally it's pretty much right after the mushroom phase ends, so I go for the kill of the totem anyway, and look at this, the husks are going to spawn, and I can't move, so I'm pretty screwed, at least I think so, but I killed them quickly. I switched to my sunlight crossbow, and I managed to kill 2 of them, which is the bare minimum of living, but I'm going to take a major hit here. 77, so yeah, I did horrible on the Sleepwalkers this trip, so that's unfortunate, but now it's the enrage phase, so I put on redemption to give me a little bit more chance for survival, because I'm totally out of food. And yeah, you just have piety on, start swinging your zombie axe, and as long as you had some supplies, you'll have enough time to kill her. This gets pretty close for me though, because I really did make a ton of mistakes this trip. But look at that, the zombie axe comes through, my redemption activates, although I didn't need it, and there's my incredible loot of 200 nature runes. And this trip took 11 minutes and 1 second, so quite slow, but there's so many things I could have improved with as far as praying augury, using thralls, getting a better mage weapon, so yeah, there's an example of low DPS being fine for this. Because this is supposed to be a guide though, I'll go ahead and just show clips of what successful Sleepwalker phases look like for when there's 3 or 4, so just letting you know it is possible to take no damage from when you do those with a 3-tick weapon like the Sunlight Hunter's crossbow. And that's going to be it for this guide. Thank you very much for watching. Please let me know in the comments if you found it useful, if you have any feedback, and I appreciate any likes or subscribes you'll give to the channel. I'll continue putting out content. I'm always taking suggestions if you would like a guide on a specific piece of content. I did already make a couple on the Coliseum and Doom if you want to check those out here. Otherwise, see you in the next one and take care.